can perform exorcisms? Well, the answer to that is any ordained priest technically could perform exorcisms. But before they can perform exorcisms, they should be trained as to how to properly do them. There's actually a school in Rome where they send people to train to become exorcists. They have all kinds of training, they have all kinds of work to do, history about it and everything, so that they know what they're doing. It's not something that you just decide one day, hey, I'm going to start exorcising people. But in order to perform an exorcism, it has to be done the proper way, which includes talking to the bishop, going through the bishop's office, getting permission to do it, and then they assign someone to do the exorcism. It's not something that any priest should want to do either. It's something that it happens, it's something that the church does, but it's not something that we should aspire to do. I mean, combating the devil, isn't exactly fun. I mean, we see it romanticized in films, we see it talked about in things, but we don't really know what it's like until you do it, and coming face to face with such evil isn't something people should want to do. It's something that we do as a service, not something that we're jumping with excitement to do. Also, we have to remember that exorcisms, as we understand them from TV, is not what exorcism actually means. So this is something that a lot of people don't really know about. Exorcism basically means to cast out. It doesn't necessarily mean a possessed person. So when you look at the St. Benedict medals, there's an exorcism prayer that's said over them before the blessing to cast out any evil or evil influences from the medal before they're blessed. In the old blessing of water, the ritual called for an exorcism of the water before you blessed it. The same thing with salt. You would exorcise the salt before you blessed the salt. So there were exorcism prayers that were used all the time, and they were used to cast out any negative or evil influence, usually before something was blessed. You see them even in the scrutinies when someone is being brought into the church or when they're preparing for baptism. There are exorcism prayers that are said to separate the person from any evil influence before they're baptized, just as a precaution. Exorcism, as you see it in the movies, where there's someone possessed by a demon or whatever, that's actually very rare. That doesn't happen very often. I'm not going to get into all the details because we have other things to talk about, but there are 3 different types of demonic activity, the most common not being possession. There's actually what they call obsession, infestation, and possession. I'm not going to get into all the details about how it all works, but the idea is that the most common form of demonic activity is not actually possession. It's where the person gets tormented in things without them actually being possessed themselves. But who can perform exorcisms? Any ordained priest. But when it comes to exorcism of possessed persons, that requires permission of the bishop, special training, all that other stuff. It's interesting, we could talk about it another day, but to answer the question, who can do it, that's the answer.
Somebody told me recently, after I heard that question, is it true that every diocese has at least one priest that can do that?
Is it true that every diocese has at least one person who can do that?
I mean, that's what they told me. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know.
The answer is yes and no. Is every diocese supposed to have someone specifically assigned to deal with that? Yes. Every diocese is supposed to have somebody who has been trained and is set aside for that. Does every diocese have someone set aside to do that? No. Whether it's because the bishop doesn't want to assign someone, or he thinks that rather than using his own priest, he could borrow one from a neighboring diocese, whatever the reason may be, they are supposed to, but in practice, they don't always have someone set aside. Any other questions about that? No.